Seniors of Minnesota. We bring seniors 50 plus together.
Learn about and discuss issues that are important to Minnesotans. Hear from our elected officials and experts on public policy.
Meet political candidates, elect delegates to district and elect conventions, and help elect Republicans to office at all levels.
We believe in and advocate for the principles of personal responsibility, economic prosperity, peace through strong national defense,
and limited, sensible government. Republican Seniors of Minnesota. Thanks for joining us.
Brumwell. I'm chair of the Republican Seniors of Minnesota and your MC for this meeting. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded by our volunteers. There's a few quick meeting courtesy reminders for you. Be sure to turn off or silence your cell phones as a courtesy to our speakers. If you turn your cell phone to vibrate, don't place it on the table because it will vibrate. Take side conversations out of the room. Those east doors close, and you can have a side conversation there if you need to. Otherwise, brief whispers inside the room so that everyone can continue hearing the speakers. This is a very large room, and even though you think you have a loud voice, I think I do, you are not able to be heard unless you have a microphone in your hand, other than disturbing the people next to you. So, as we have people make comments and questions, I ask that you wait for one of the roving microphones to be brought to you. We'll be pointing probably on one side of the room or the other to try to sequence people so everyone gets a chance to have their say. The area closest to the beverage station, about the 2 seats furthest in from them, are not on camera. So if you are given the microphone as a courtesy to people who will be watching the video or are live streaming, move yourself a little closer so that they can see you as well as hear you. Sound check. Sarah and Greg, are you able to hear me? Yes, okay, everybody's able to hear me? Good. Now, any other quick things, Mike? We're good? If during the meeting you're not able to hear, please wave your hand. Mike Lehman here, our immediate past chair, is running our soundboard, so he will try to make sure that you are able to hear. Please join me in an opening prayer. Gracious God, we thank you for this opportunity to gather for a meeting. Please bless our speakers this day. Help them to communicate clearly the knowledge they have to share. We pray for those in government, especially the paid civil service staff and election officials. Grace them with your guidance and give them courage to do what is right. We pray for our candidates who are seeking government office. Keep them and their volunteers safe as they meet with and educate voters. Open the hearts and minds of voters to consider who best reflects their values. Thank you for each and every one who is here today. Grant each of us the strength and determination to take action and make a difference using fully the skills and the lifetime you have given to us. Amen. At the very end of our meeting, if you have a brief 30-second announcement, I will be calling for those just before we do the door prize drawing. So I've had at least 5 people ask me, when can I make that announcement? It'll be at the very end, just before the door prize drawing. We'll bring the microphones around to you. You are welcome to stay in the room for additional conversation. We have the room until noon today. So we expect to wrap up right around 11:30. We'll have another half hour available for conversation and meeting with candidates. We're pleased that SD50 volunteers arranged to come and do voter registration, and they are at the back corner of the room. You've got a whole list of them there. We have been encouraged to have voter registration at all Republican events, all civic events. These people can show you how it's done, can talk with you. You don't need any special training. You don't need any certificate from the government. You just need to know a couple rules of what you do with a voter registration and voter registration form. Your help is still requested every month at the MNGOP office on the third Thursdays. I have a sign up here, and there's also a website where you can sign up. The MNGOP office is at the corner of Highway 100 and 494, easy drive from here. What we do is easy work. We stuff envelopes with the PCR receipt so that they can be mailed out so people who have donated to the party can get their rebate. The next time is June 20th from 9:30 to 11:30. We had a big group there. I don't know if you all got the memo from MNGOP last week where they were trying to do a catch-up session. We had like 30 people there. It was amazing. And we got caught up. So this next Thursday should be then again, donations are pouring in. It'll be a fun event no matter how many we have to stuff. Thank you. In each of our metro area congressional districts, they're asking to have a Republican senior serve on their executive committee. Those typically meet monthly. If you're willing to serve, please see me or send a note using our form on our website. SD50B is having their endorsing convention tonight. You should have gotten the notice about a new meeting location for that endorsement convention. It's up at the Lutheran Church at 46th and France. See me, I've got a copy of that information here. I want to apologize for having skipped over an item on our normal agenda, and let me do that right now. Please, will our veterans and first responders stand and be recognized? And now will all of you stand, and we will have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. First on our speaking agenda today are three candidates who are seeking political office. First to speak will be Lor Xiong. She's the endorsed Republican candidate for CD4 congressional candidate. She's running against Betty McCollum, who is a career politician. Betty has been in Washington, D.C. for the last 20 years. May has been here in St. Paul, raising a family and teaching school. CD4 covers nearly all of Ramsey County, which includes St. Paul, most of its northern suburbs. It includes a part of Washington County, cities of White Bear Lake, Stillwater, Shoreview, Woodbury, Oakdale, Blaine, Roseville, and Maplewood are all in CD4. Please join me in welcoming Lor.
Thank you, Carol, for inviting me this morning to speak to all of you today. I'm very honored to be here. Just a little bit background of who I am. I am a congressional candidate in District 4, Ramsey County, Washington County. I'm a mother of 4, 2 boys and 2 girls. My 2 sons served in the U.S. military, Navy, and National Guard. I was a teacher in St. Paul Public Schools for 20 years. I am now a real estate broker. And also, I'm a chairwoman for the Asian American Republican of Minnesota affiliate group here in Minnesota. I ran in 2022 against Betty McCollum. It was my first time getting involved in the political world, and because of what's happening in our state and our country. And although we came up short, I became the first Asian American or Hmong American to win the primary at a federal level. I outperformed the governor race by over 9% and brought in almost 20% of Republican votes for our district. So this year, we are going to continue our journey to fight against the Democrats, to make sure that our borders are secure. We all know in this room, We all love this country. And I came here when I was 8 years old. My parents brought us here legally. And I remember growing up, my dad always say, you know, I brought you to this country not to dirty, but to make it better. And here I am today, standing in front of you, protecting the country that gave me the American dream, that gave me the opportunity to raise my children, to get an education, and to give back to, and now I want to give back to the country. So I'm here today to really ask for your help, your support, and your volunteer. We have a lot of events and parades coming up, and so if you have time, I know that all of us, we want to flip the House and the Senate, and we want to flip Minnesota red. And City 4 plays a crucial role in it. And I tell people, it's not just work in your district or in your community. If we work together, we can turn Minnesota red. And so I hope that if you can help me volunteer resources, if you need more information, go to may4mn.com. That's MAY, the number 4, MN.com, or MAYFORMN.com. Thank you so much. So they said I have 1 minute for questions. Any questions for me? Yes, I did a pretty good job. Oh.
Tell us about your sons in the military.
Oh, okay. So my youngest son, Joshua, served in the U.S. Navy down in Jacksonville, Florida. He was in IT there. He went in there because he wanted to travel the world and he wanted to follow the footsteps of my dad. My dad was a soldier when he was 15 years old in Laos, protecting America, even though at that time he didn't know where America was. But they said that they were protecting freedom. They were fighting for freedom. That's what he did, and many of the Hmong soldiers did. I have 2 brothers that also served in the U.S. military. And then my oldest son, Ricky, served in the National Guard for 6 years. And right now he's reserved, but yeah, they're doing very well, and I'm very proud of them.
A quick question for you. I read that the Hmong community in St. Paul is the largest in the United States, and it is 6% of the St. Paul population. Does that ring a bell?
Yes.
Yes.
So
okay.
So over 100,000 Hmong. So in Minnesota, we have over 100,000 Hmong living here. So it is becoming. It used to be California being the largest Hmong community, but now Minnesota is.
Thank you very much, May Laura. Next to speak is John Nagel. John is the endorsed Republican candidate for 46A Minnesota House seat in St. Louis Park. John.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? This is the 3rd time I've been here, and I'm not going to talk about all the things that are wrong with Minnesota. You already know what's wrong with Minnesota. But, there's a large group of us that came out of retirement and decided that maybe we need to put our state back on the right track. I'm a retired state trooper. I retired with 30 years, 6 months, and 10 days. I was happy being retired. And next thing I know is I'm a criminal justice chair for a college and I'm teaching. Next thing I know is I'm working for the Twins as security. The next thing I know is I'm working for the defensive driving folks at the Minnesota Safety Council. So I really haven't retired. I just turned 68 on June. Now, I am running. A couple people came up in October and said, you should run for the legislature. And I'm going, I should be running in the other direction. Why would I want to do that? Well, here I am. And the reason I'm doing it is a lot of different things. You all saw what happened to Ryan Londrigan, that young state trooper? Okay, well, I know Ryan, and Ryan says his thanks to everybody that stood up with him and supported him from the very, very beginning. I was able to see Ryan at a Tea Party event, and he and his wife are doing really, really well. I particularly like their little boy, their son. He was on my knee. I was bouncing him. His name is John too. So there's a tie there. But I just took a look at the legislature, and we need people to step up. Now, when I decided to run, I looked at my wife and I said, "Are you okay with it?" She said, "You were a trooper for 30 years. If I can put up with that, I can put up with you being a politician for, a little while." I looked at my daughter and I said, "What do you think?" She goes, "Dad, I'm afraid." She said, I'm taking a look at all the bad things that happen. And I said, when somebody doesn't want to put up a sign in their yard for fear of something. And I go, "Well, honey," I said, "your dad had a squad car parked in his driveway forever, and everybody knew, that the state trooper lived there, and they also knew I had a gun. But besides that, my son looked at me and he said, 'Dad, you've been away for about 12, 13 years now.' He said, 'You spent your whole life serving the people of Minnesota.' And he goes, 'It's time to step up again, Dad.' He said, 'Minnesota needs people to step up.' So here I am, folks, and I want everybody to listen to this part. I'm a newbie. I am not somebody that, should be even running. Everybody needs to pull together. I am a Reagan type kind of person. I've been talking to May. There are other folks here that are going to be talking to you. We all need to pull together. Quit fighting amongst ourselves and get on board. Everybody get in the canoe and everybody paddle in the same direction. Otherwise, you're going to have a trifecta in St. Paul again. And we're 2 years into having to fix all the stuff they've already broken. So let's stop with the arguing. Let's get on board. Let's help everybody. Let's show up. And if you know somebody, take them to vote, okay? Thank you. By the way, Nagel for House right up there. You like that? See, Republicans, we like outdoors. We're not anti, look at that. Oh, yeah, questions. Anybody have a question? Please give me a question. Don't let me look silly up here. Okay? Oh, yes, ma'am. The Democrat that I'm running against?
Yes, and what one issue are you going to really bring out in this whole campaign?
People ask me about one issue. I'll look at you and say, what one thing would you like me to fix at the legislature for you?
Yeah, the whole thing.
That would be my answer to you. Okay. Larry Kraft is the guy that I'm running against. Larry ran last time unopposed. Nobody ran against him. I think he won with 12,000 votes running unopposed. And not that green energy is a bad thing, but I looked at his social post and he put on there, campaigns have to be all about the environment. Okay, well, my kids can't read, they can't write, they can't add. Religious people can't, practice their religion, and I really don't like, men in my daughter's locker room. So if that's only about the environment, great, but I'm about the environment, and I'm also about fixing the problems that we have in Minnesota. So.
Thank you very much, John Nagel. Our final political speaker today is Teresa Whitson. Teresa is the endorsed Republican candidate for Minnesota House 47A. That's the western half of Woodbury and part of Maplewood.
Good morning. So 47 might sound familiar. That's where the cat burglar is the senator. So I have to admit, I did break into a house one time by the window, but it was my own because it was 100 years old and I hadn't figured out the locks when it was brand new. So I've listened to candidates and politicians for years, just like you have. And I think I know what you want to hear. You want to hear that I have common sense, that I work hard, that I have a passion for this state and for this country. And I do. You want to hear that I want to make this state a great place for lawful, peaceful citizens and their families to safely live and flourish. And I do. You want to hear that I want businesses and schools to succeed without social engineering policies. And I do. You want to hear that our state is not a place where criminals and illegal entry migrants get free passes for their behavior or are even rewarded with freebies with your tax dollars. But I'm afraid they are. You want to hear that our state is not a magnet for the misguided parents of confused teens, even preteens, to be permanently mutilated, but it is. Our state is also a national magnet for abortion, for any reason, at any point in gestation, even after birth. Yes, I'm running against one Democrat, but like John said, I'm running against all of them. I'm praying for the success of President Trump. I'm praying for a great turnout in November, no snowstorms, so that every Republican running in this state will be able to, on January 25, turn things around for Minnesota. A little bit about myself. I've been married for 46 years. I have 3 children and 6 grandchildren. My father was an Air Force officer for 31 years. My brother was an Air Force pilot, instructor, and air search and rescue. My son went to the Air Force Academy, and he and my daughter-in-law, she is also an Air Force officer, are currently serving in Hawaii. I know something else you all want to hear, short speeches. My campaign literature is on the back counter over there. My literature is still in production, but there's contact information back there. Thank you so much. I could use, just like May said, we could all use any kind of volunteer help, financial help, and prayers. Thank you. Are there any questions? I'm running against Amanda Hemmingstein-Yeager. She is a freshman House rep. She voted, obviously, in lockstep. They all did for every bad bill that went through. Yeah, she's really big on climate control, which means government control. So she's been in one term. Yes. Yeah. Sir.
I don't think too many people in this room really like the way the Senate changed our flag in Minnesota.
Yes.
From what I've heard from my representative, I'm from Lakeville, that there was no choice in the matter. It was a small group that made the decision.
Yes.
And now all these cities and counties have to spend all this money to change it to the new flag. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I probably shouldn't say what I think this new flag looks like, but it looks like a foreign flag.
It does.
People who aren't really friendly.
Yeah. It also kind of reminds me of a naval signal flag in some way. Sir.
Look at the flag of Somalia.
Yes.
It looks like the Minnesota flag.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Seriously.
There is a strong resemblance to the. Sorry, go ahead.
Look at the flag of Somalia. It looks just very similar, the same design as Minnesota, and I hate the design.
Yes. Yeah. Yet again, a major part of our culture, our native culture, has been erased, as if the Land O'Lakes butter wasn't bad enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Again, information for all our candidates is on the black high top back there. The candidates, I hope, will be able to stick around after 11:30 to speak with you. And now, our Director for Outreach, John Butz, has some updates on our goals to grow the reach and participation in Republican seniors, both here in the metro area and outstate.
Thank you, Chairperson Carol Bromwell. Do you all know Carol? Hold the sign. Carol does a lot of work. She does so much work that she said, we're going to have a meeting afterwards for the board, and we're going to go from 12 to 1:30. I thought, holy cow, who's doing all this? Carol, thanks for all your work. We should give her a hand, gang. We should give her a hand. All right, we also have a lot of good candidates. I hope you heard how many good thoughts they had about what we're doing with this election. So I'd like to use a word that sums up everything. It's only 3 letters this time, no 4-letter words. It's ALL, all. We all need to be doing something. We can't be sitting on our fannies and thinking somebody else is going to do it. So we all got to get out and do something. So here's the first thing you can do. How many of you got into this organization, Republican Seniors of Minnesota, by an invitation? Come on, get the hands up. I got a lot of them, most of us. I was invited. Now we have to do the same thing. We have to invite people ourselves. So we made a little chart. The board said, John, can you make a graph? Well, I'm a science guy, so I could make a graph. I know X and Y axis, so I put on the graph all the numbers going. You can't see it. I'm sorry. Mike Lehman says, oh, I could have put that on the screen. If only you would have sent something to me. Oh, well, you'll have to look at it later, but it's a graph of our attendance. And here's what it shows. It shows that in January, over here's the January little dot, we had 134 people show up. That was pretty good in January. It's snowing. Oh, it wasn't snowing in Minnesota last year, was it? Then we dropped down in February down here to about 100. I thought, what's going on? This is the same thing that happens in elections. Those gals back here at the table back there are saying, get registered. We need to get our vote out early. All the Democrats vote early. They win the election before it's even held on November 5th. If it's a little bit of rain, there's a little bit of snow, there's a little bit of cold weather, what do people say? Oh, it's so cold, it's so rainy, it's so slippery, it's so bad, I can't go. Forget that. Vote on a nice day. We got plenty of nice days before. I don't know the date when we can have open ballots, when we can go into your city hall and vote. I don't know what that... September 20th. You can vote any time between September 20 and November 5th. That's how the Democrats win. I know they cheat, but they also win this way. You know, their little mantra is vote early and vote often. Ooh. Excuse me. We got to get the often off of there, but we got to vote early. Okay, so then we jumped up here in March up to 134, and then last April and May, this last 2 months, we went down to 121. So we're looking over here. I don't know, I counted 20 of us sitting at the back there. And Chuck, you got a number? 118. Okay, we're not doing so good, gang. Now, we're doing better than last year, but every year we got to do better. So we're all going to have to get out there and get some new members. Over here is a thermometer. We're trying to reach that top point on the thermometer, and that's how many people are members. Okay, so this is not members. This is just attenders. This is members. We right now have 206. Anybody know how many we had at the end of 2023? 208. Way ahead. We had about 6 today. But we're not at our goal. The board said let's have a 20% increase. We took about 200 times 20 would be 240. So we need about 240, but I thought, well, maybe we could get this little thing up here filled in too and have 250. Why should we think so small, right? Let's think bigger. So that's what the graph is. I guess maybe I'll find a way to give that to Mike Lehman next month. You can all see it on the screen. Okay, now I wanted to compare that a little bit to how many people we have in Hennepin County. I mean, we are the Republican Seniors of Minnesota. It's about 5,700,000 Minnesotans, according to the survey 2020. But in Hennepin County, there's about 1,200,000. I'm rounding the numbers off. Of which they say about 1/5 are seniors 65 and over. Oh, what's it say on our little rack card? The ages for members in this organization. 50. So we should really be able to beat that 1 in 5 or 20%, but 20% of 1,200,000 is about, it's going to round out to about 300,000. But how many of those are Democrats? Way too many. So how many are Republicans? Well, if we took 40%, if that's dreaming, 40% would give us about 6,000, or 120,000. And if we take 120,000 and say, well, how many of you invited somebody and they didn't show up? How many invited somebody and they said no? How many invited somebody and they say, I'll think about it? Not everybody does this. You know, does this and handed out 100 aspirins, 5 people get a headache. That's just the way it is. So we're gonna run into people that don't want to come, and they're good qualified, and if you keep badgering them, they don't come. Find somebody new. Well, I asked all my friends. No, you probably didn't. You didn't think of all your friends. Think of somebody. So I'd say if we took what would be, say, 40% are Democrats. 40% of the Democrats that live in Hennepin County would be about 6,000. How many have we got? 121 showing up at a meeting. They're not all members. 200 members. Gang, we can do way better than that. So that's the goal, to do better. Now, I got two last things. Carol said 3 minutes. You know, who can ever talk in only 3 minutes? I can. So here's the last two things. You all know, each one bring one. You ever hear that little expression? Each one bring one. Okay, that's all for all of us. Well, I thought I'm going to go to the caucus. I went to the caucus. I live in Eden Prairie. It's at the Eden Prairie Junior High, and they have they're in the cafeteria, all the tables where kids sit, so you can put about 8 people around a table. And I had a sign, not like this, a sign. I thought, oh, they'll rush over to talk to me. Are you kidding? I didn't get anybody come over, and finally I said, I'm going to them. I went to each one of those tables until they started the meeting, so I didn't get to all of them. And I said, do you know about the Republican seniors? I signed up 15 people in about 20 minutes just by going to that. Now, did they all show up here? Probably not. You don't have to applaud for me. That's okay. All of us have to do things like that. We can get people here. Okay? The second thing is, you all know where Betty's Pies is? How many like Betty's Pies? Betty's Pies up on the North Shore, right? A little bit past Two Harbors. And when you go there, I mean, they have other things besides pie, but they have a lot of good pies. You have to wait to get in the restaurant. You walk in, there's a sign that says, it's not a shame to have pie for breakfast. Isn't that great? Guess what? It's not a shame to vote early. It's not a shame to ask your friend to show up at this meeting. It's not a shame for you to do more. So I say, are you ready? You all know the expression, the answer for that? I was born ready. Be born ready. Get yourselves some people here so we can expand and win. But this is lunacy what these people are doing in the Minnesota government. We got to stop it, and we can. God bless you all.
Thank you, John Butz. Exciting to know that we are continuing to grow. Now I'm pleased to welcome our featured speakers. Rick Aguilar volunteers as chair of the Hispanic Republican Assembly of Minnesota, which, like the Republican Seniors, is an affiliate organization of the Republican Party of Minnesota. With him is Rico Vallejos, and they will be speaking about the Latino vote in 2024. Here's a bit more about each of them. Rick is a Vietnam veteran who served in the U.S. Navy. He is president CEO of Aguilar Productions, Inc., that's based in St. Paul, and he is the founder and publisher of Latino American Today, a print publication that reaches the Latino community in the metro area. Rick is very active in civic affairs. He served as chairman of the board of the directors for the St. Paul Area Chamber of Commerce for the year 2000. He was a metropolitan council for 8 years. He was being... Don't hate him. He was appointed by Tim Pawlenty, so it's been a while. And he was also a member of the St. Paul River Center Board of Directors. Rico Vallejos is an award-winning advertising copywriter and journalistic feature writer. In both of those roles, he applies cultural anthropology to business communications. He is a chief creative officer at Rico Latino LLC, and he is a trustee emeritus at Hamline University. Rico taught multicultural communication at the University of St. Thomas and has developed a conversational Spanish coaching program that incorporates neuroplasticity, try to say that quick, Toyota, and natural language acquisition. He was born and raised in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and now lives in Wayzata. Please join me in welcoming Rick and Rico as they tell us more about the Latino vote in 2024. Oh, we got you wound around the table. go round and round.
Well, thank you, Carol, and what a pleasure to be here, folks. Rick and Rico, it sounds like a singing duo or something. Well, we're not going to do that. Well, first of all, you know what, on a serious note, let's take 30 seconds for that amazing police officer who gave his life. 30 seconds. Thank you. You know, they're having a service for him today. I just want to remind everybody, I know our hearts are with him. But, hey, it's our 20th anniversary of our Hispanic Republican Assembly of Minnesota. 20 years that we've been in business. Yeah. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. You know, when I initially met with Don Patton, and General Patton, when I met Don and Steve, you know, Don's been talking about doing a presentation about 15 years. So Don, every year I see Don, he said, Rick, we got to get you over to the seniors. So, well, let's hustle up here. Time's moving on. And here I am today. And so I thought, Don and I talked about immigration. Maybe that's what we want to talk about, serious business. It's just terrible what's happening at the border. It's just, you know, it's hard to believe these millions coming over here illegally. But I told, well, Don, you know, it's a great topic, but I think more than that, let's talk about the Latino vote, because pundits, experts all agree. If we start getting a dominating vote percentage out of the U.S. Latino community here, like the African Americans vote Democrat, we'll never lose again, ladies and gentlemen. We're the largest minority in the country, and we will be, our lifetimes, we will be Latinos. They're young, they have large families, a lot of our values we're going to talk about. Let's talk about that today, Don and Steve. And they said, yeah, right on, Rick. But I do want to say that in our conversation, Don, about immigration, quickly, my mom and dad were originally from Mexico in a state called Michoacan. And a great name because it's similar to Minnesota, a lot of lakes. It's a big agricultural state, a huge state in Mexico. And that's where they came, but the Civil War entered Mexico. So my father, along with the hundreds and thousands of Mexicans, joined the Bracero program. Who remembers the Bracero program? Yes, and the program worked this way. You would meet at a designated spot on the border, and you would go, and they would have work for you, agricultural work for you, throughout the states, throughout the country, and at the end, you can go back to Mexico with that money and take care of your family. It was a great program. My father was a part of it, and you know, they found that it worked, because most Mexicans, and I say this from the heart, they don't want to come here, folks. They don't want to leave their hometown. They don't. But it is dire over there. It's a terrible situation in Mexico, economically for Latinos, and it has been for quite a few years. So my parents were coming back and forth. A farmer, a friendly farmer from St. Peter, Minnesota, befriended my dad. And he said, listen, why don't you go and get your family and bring them back? And I've got a place for you to live. You can work for me. And my father did that. There was 5 children, my brothers and sisters, in Mexico at the time. 3 brothers and 2 sisters. And they had a long trip back. Imagine, this is in the 30s. But they arrived here in St. Peter, and they went to work, and things were going okay. The war broke out. World War II. And my 3 brothers had to make a decision. Did they want to go and fight for their new country. And they did. They joined up, enlisted. They could barely speak English. And they said, we're going to go and fight because we want to stay here. And they represented hundreds and thousands of illegal Mexicans that fought in World War II. Hundreds and thousands. My brother Rudy was wounded in the Battle of the Bulge. My brother Art did 2 years in a Japanese prison camp. And both alive and well. They survived, had a beautiful life. They're gone now. And then my brother Louis fought in Korea, and I was in Vietnam. But the Aguilars, we came from Mexico, but we served our country. And that's a great story about hundreds and thousands of Latinos that not only live here, but throughout the country. So enough of that. Let's go back to, I just wanted to bring that. Don, there's a little bit of that Pacero program. They should bring that program back, is what I think. But here's about our assembly. You know, we started in 2004, but our goals were to recruit Latino voters, increase the numbers of elected officials, and maintain a network of Latino leaders. And I think we've been pretty successful. The main reason we launched HRAM, it's our H group here in Minnesota, was the population growth. The number of Hispanic Minnesotans, according to the 2020 census, is 345,000. 345,000 Latinos. The Latino population has grown by 20% and 30% over the last couple of decades, and 200,000 in total the past 20 years. What a time, what a growth period. That's when we thought we need to get involved in politics here, because I think we have the numbers for a swing vote. And that's what we did. And that's what's going on with our Asian folks. These are swing votes. These are, when we lose decisions here, we lose races by 10 or 15 votes or 100 votes or 200 votes, they could be the difference. And so we've been, pretty successful with our group. In 2004, Rico, here's one of our meetings. Here's one of our meetings here. The next, right here. We meet generally at the Boca Chica restaurant. Anybody familiar with the Boca Chica restaurant in St. Paul? Yeah, there we are. There's our current chair, David Hann. We've got a standing room only crowd there. You might even recognize some of the folks there. But yeah, we've been very successful with our meetings, and we were kind of caught down with COVID, but we're back in the run here. But 2004 was a magic time. Why? Well, it was the Viva Bush campaign. We all remember the Viva Bush campaign. More Latinos were thinking about the Republican Party because of Bush 43. He was from Texas. He had a Latino background. Jeb was married to a Mexican lady. So there was some familiarity there. And we were encouraged by Bush 43. And then the 2004 election came. And so Bush 43 thought, I'm going to do it the right way. By the way, I think there's a picture right to the far right is Tim Pawlenty. See the lower far right? You guys remember Tim Pawlenty, don't you? Remember him? How many people like to see Tim Pawlenty back? Yeah, right? Yeah. Yeah, I thought he was very good. But here was the Bush campaign, and here's what George Bush did different. He went and hired a Latino marketing agency, one of the best agencies in the country. The same agency that was doing Miller Brewing, that was doing Procter & Gamble. And he said, we're going to market Bush 43 to the Latino community. And we're going to do a full marketing campaign. This turned out to be one of the most successful marketing campaigns in the history of the Republican Party. And we're here to tell you a little bit about it. And what did George do differently? Well, first of all, he had advocates that would go out throughout the country, Latino advocates that would go out and meet with Latino groups around the country. And his message wasn't some drawn-up message by the experts no, it was faith, family, and freedom. Plain and simple. But Bush 43 was welcoming the Latinos. Said, we want to work with you. We want you to join the party. And it was really one of the most successful. It drew 45% of the vote, which was a record number back then. And it helped them win in that tight race. It helped them win Texas and Florida. Those were the deciding votes. So the next one, Rico. I think a couple of things we did too was we've got our friend Ron Reagan here, and it's Latinos are Republicans. They just don't know it yet. Yeah, and because over the years, folks, and you can raise your hand if you think this is right. Over the years, I've met so many Republicans because I've been active for years. We had a Hispanics for Boswich group. Yeah, we had an Hispanics for Boswich. We worked with Arnie Carlson when he was a Republican. Remember that when he was a Republican, Arnie Carlson? He's not anymore, but when he was. Yeah, we worked for Rudy Boswich. He had a successful business, and he hired a lot of Latinos. So we were there many years, but I think we really came together in 2004, and we had a chance also back in the early days, to meet Ronald Reagan, and this was a statement he made, because I talked to so many Republicans. Say, Rick, how come the Latinos don't vote Republican? They have our same values. How many people have said that to? How many people have thought that? The Latinos have the same values. They'll say, well, how come they don't vote Republican? Well, we have to reach out for them, folks. We have to reach out and invite them. We have to send them the literature. We have to do some social media. We have to do some television. That's what Bush 43 did. And he made media buys throughout the country. So what Leonel Sosa was wage agency, one of the top agencies in the country. So what we want to do today, we're going to treat you to something we would do at a marketing conference, because that's my business. I produce Hispanic marketing conferences. I have for 28 years. Rico's been one of my presenters. We're going to talk about Latino values. I thought, why don't we bring a Latino marketing expert? This is the way we would talk if you were a group of marketing agencies for whatever brand, or if you worked at a company and you were in the marketing department. So this is something interesting. We thought we'd bring it along, and I want to introduce my counterpart, one of the most amazing Hispanic marketing directors and creative artists here in the cities, Rico Vallejos. Rico.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Rick. And we're going to be speaking about cultural values. My background is cultural anthropology, but we won't get technical. When we speak about cultures, we naturally have to generalize. And there are exceptions to every of these rules. You can say Germans and this, or well, you can say, you can tell a Swede, but you can tell him much. And those are generalizations. There's a book titled Scandinavian Humor and Other Myths. We're generalizing, and we know why that's funny. And so this is what we're doing here. We're going to talk about Latino values. And the first one, and this is a big one that has many implications, is the group orientation versus the general Latino, the individual orientation of American culture. American culture, when they've done studies of this all around the world, England, the US, Germany, come out as very individualistic oriented cultures. We have so many ways to talk about this value, how much we value that in the US, in American English. To be number one, to stand out from the crowd. And if you go to other countries, especially Asian cultures, Latino cultures, even African cultures, what does one very classic African proverb most of us have heard of. You want to go fast? Go alone. You want to go far? Go together. And that comes from a very group-oriented culture, African cultures. Latino culture is like that. It's a very much a group orientation in the culture. Going back to the 70s, back in 1979, I left my native Argentina to be a missionary in Brazil. I began to learn Portuguese, and I found the Portuguese version of this. This is a campaign that Campus Crusade for Christ did all over the world. It was in many, many languages, and it was huge in Brazil when I was there, in Portuguese, of course. I found it. It was an evangelistic campaign. So by 1779, it was already very popular all over the world. And the cultural element of this is because I want to speak a particular culture that also has a group orientation, the Jewish culture. Some Jewish rabbis came up with a response to this, and they came up with this. We never lost it. You know, very clever, very funny. Yet, I want you to pay attention to how, when we say, I found it, me, the individual, and their response is a collective, it's a group-oriented response. We never lost it. And so that is a great way to see what how the cultures vary and how we relate, think of ourselves. We're talking about collectivism and individualism. That is one way to say it. Comunidad, group harmony, cooperation, those are huge elements and huge values in these communities. By the way, what I'm saying community, a lot of it applies to other communities, to Asian communities, to African immigrant communities, to a lot of different groups. But Latinos are very, in fact, I have a friend of mine who is a physician. He gives talks like this, and he does international health. And he says, when you see a Latino alone, you're looking at a very lonely Latino. Because, we travel in groups. There's a stand-up comedian who said, any Latinos here, any Latinos? And they were all 1, 2, 4, oh, maybe 20 of you. Did you all come in the same car? Those are stereotypes again. Yet, they have a grain of truth and a lot of truth. So, dependence versus independence. Interdependence is the reality. We all need each other, even the people who go live off the grid and they just are way out of the whole system. They need to depend on somebody to build the solar panels they use and all the technology and everything else. Nobody is fully independent. And so it's an acknowledgement of reality, interdependence. In Latino cultures, part of the group orientation again, the dependence and the interdependence is acknowledged and appreciated. We all need each other. We support each other. We come up with group solutions a lot of times, as opposed to I need to just put my, work on it and get it done. There's more of a collective effort very often. Cooperation is much more important, and so are relationships. There is a concept that we can get into, is cultural anthropology, and it's big when you study this, if we have more time in a Q&A or whatever. But there are high context cultures and low context cultures. And a lot of it has to do with relationships. If Latinos are a high context culture, and that means if I know you, I trust you, you tell me something, I believe you right away, but I need to know you first. So we need to develop a relationship. A low context culture is the opposite. No matter who you are, you can be my twin brother, you better tell me everything. I want to hear everything about this. I'm not going to sign or buy unless I see the details. British culture, England, Germany again, the US are low context cultures. Latinos are a very high context culture. So are African cultures and Asian cultures and many others, Native American, where the relationship is so important. And for salespeople in marketing, sometimes it takes a little more time to develop that relationship. But after you have it, things can move a lot quicker because you don't have to do the selling with all the details over again, even if you're selling to your twin brother. So solidarity, as you can expect, generosity, hospitality. Those are very high things. You portray this with your behavior, with your life, your organization, your words, your media. You will connect with the culture. And you will recognize this in the culture as you come into whatever culture in the Latino community and begin to see these things. After all, it's kind of a cliche, but hospitality, this is the culture of mi casa es su casa. It's a cliche, but again, there's a lot of truth into that. One quick comment about age orientation, and there is respect for elders. Even though the Latino community in the U.S. is such a young community, a young market, the median age of Latinos in the U.S. and even in Minnesota is under the age of 30. The median age of non-Hispanic whites in the U.S. and Minnesota is over 40. So it's a very young community, but the cultural values are still there. And a little story about what I heard myself in a focus group that I was helping direct. We're talking about, we have a bunch of consumers, and we're talking about beauty products. And there was one particular beauty product, the positioning of the product was, this thing will help you look younger. And that was something that worked for the general market. For the Latino market, and there were a few Latinos in the group, and one of them said, well, you know what? Yeah, that's fine, but I want a product that will help me feel and look more beautiful. What's the point of being young and ugly? And he actually said that. It's like, well, you got a point there, So yes, that is an age orientation that is refreshing in many ways. So younger versus more beautiful. Well, yeah, younger is okay, but more beautiful is more important. So respeto y dignidad, respect, dignity, honor, character, integrity, all these things are such deep values in Latino cultures. You can add faith, you can add duty to these things. And this is partly why, and Rick alluded to that, and he gave some examples here, Hispanics are overrepresented in decorated military veterans. On all the wars, Latinos participated in all the wars, even the Revolutionary War. And as somebody said, well, in the Revolutionary War, some of them worked for the other side. It's like, well, we'll work for whoever hires us, But I mean, Latinos have been very, very active and decorated in World War I, World War II, Korean, Vietnam, the Gulf Wars. Very, very long history of commitment, of dignity, of duty, of faith. A lot of times my clients ask me when we go to an event, we go to a Latino event so they can know some of the opinion leaders or a public event, what's the dress code? And my answer is always, when in question, overdress. I just put myself this pocket square from one of the white napkins I found on the table here. When in question, overdress. I think the cameras, we're going to cut this from the video, right? So, etiquette is important, and even when you see Latinos, younger Latinos, maybe being very casual about something, they can turn on, and we call it code switching in anthropology. They can turn on the etiquette and the formality right away. Maybe somebody important, somebody older, somebody comes into the room, and they can switch the formality and the etiquette so quickly. So it is something that is there, and it's hard to be overly formal in some contexts. These 4 topics keep coming up: research study after research study, family, religion, food, music. Those are elements that speak so much of culture, and it applies to all of us. That's why on St. Patrick's Day we drink, green beer, the food, the music, we listen to. Any ethnicity has this as a key thing, and that's no different with Latinos in the U.S. The Latino culture is alive and well. We've gone past assimilation into acculturation as a form of any immigrant group today. Not everybody truly assimilates, they acculturate into the new. They keep their culture, they gain a new culture. They become multicultural, multilingual, or bilingual. You incorporate something else. Any of us, if we have the chance acculturate, not assimilate. Let's say you move to France today, to Russia, to Spain, to Vietnam. I have a daughter who lives in Egypt. She's a world traveler. She didn't forget English. She's learning Arabic. She speaks Spanish. You keep those things with you. You keep your culture and you gain a new culture, language, and that's what everybody's doing today, all the immigrants. So I want to end with an important time of the year coming up, Hispanic Heritage Month. Technically September 15th to October 15th. Practically speaking, all of September, all of October. Both months you will have a lot of information, a lot of activity, and events in the Latino community. Participate in the events, take advantage of the media. There's a lot of media that people consume because they want to see when the next event or the next things are. So this is a hugely important area and time of the year. There are other events that are somewhat important, but this is really, Hispanic Heritage Month is really going up in importance in marketing budgets. It's going up too. Sometimes people talk about, hey, how about Cinco? Yeah, Cinco's becoming Cinco de Drinko, you know. And a lot of Latinos says, you know what, this is more authentic and this is really what we want to emphasize and we feel pride of our culture. So this is a huge time to take advantage of our Latino community and be in the community. It's a great opportunity coming up. And here we go. Rick is back.
Thank you, Rico. Well, that was an idea of what we do at our marketing conferences. And this is what George Bush, 43, did. He hired an agency. They dug deep into who the Latinos are. It worked. But what worked better, it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't do the media buy. You've got to do the media buy. And unfortunately, that was probably one of the last presidential campaigns that used those methods, marketing methods. And that's the problem. I've been here in Minnesota all my life. I've gone and talked to campaigns, especially the state office campaigns. They never budget a nickel, ladies and gentlemen, for outreach. Hundreds and thousands of Asian voters. 250,000 Latinos in the metro area. The African communities. That's the future. If we don't win here in the metro area, we're never going to win again. We have to start talking to these people, not getting here together and say, yeah, well, they're good people. No, understand the values. Do the media. Do the media buy. It is so inexpensive. I mean, Rico knows that you can be on radio all summer for a couple $1,000s, and Latinos listen to radio. Latinos read print. I have a paper. They read print. They want to hold it. They want to read it. So we've got to get better at that, folks. And some of the people that I worked with in the past, Norm Coleman, always put dollars out. And we were always successful in St. Paul. Tim Plenty up to a point. You know, Tim Plenty, in his 8 years in office, honored more multicultural families than any governor in history. He brought me into his team. I wasn't working for him as a volunteer. He said, Rick, reach out to these communities. You know who the people who are doing good work here and what they deserve. And he would have them up at the Capitol in that beautiful reception room. And it wasn't for a photo op, folks. He'd spend a half hour, 45 minutes sometimes with these people, these families, these individuals. And, you know, it's an amazing fact that if we do that, and we have to do that, this is the future, we have to do that, it's going to work. So let's get back to what happened with the Latinos and Trump in 2016. Here I am at the Republican convention. And, you know, back in 2004, I should mention this, back in 2004 when we launched HRM, I became the first Latino American delegate to a Republican National Convention in Minnesota history. The history of Minnesota. Yeah. Yeah, and because it was the backing of Tim Pawlenty and the backing of Norm Coleman, who was the mayor back then. And, they supported me. And so we also at the same time, I don't know if any of you are familiar with El Burrito Mercado in St. Paul, if anybody is. It's one of our first supermarkets, restaurants there. We had Dick Cheney and his wife came down there, if you can imagine, during the campaign. Those things worked. That the word spread through the whole community that Dick Cheney and his wife came down to our local store and spent some time. Those are the things that we have to do more as Republicans. But so we had a tough call with Trump, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Well, we had, and I'm going to use what Trump called him. We had Little Marco, because he called him Little Marco Rubio. We were supporting Marco Rubio, so our HRAM supported Marco Rubio. What's the only state Marco Rubio won during the whole debates? He won Minnesota. So when I see Marco Rubio, I was in Florida last year. He said Rick Aguilar is in the audience, and he still remembers why it was the only state he won. So we're supporting Marco Rubio at the time. And my wife, who she's in the consulate corps with Mexico, with Mexican government, Mexican diplomat. And she was in Los Angeles at the time, and she would call me, and they didn't like Trump, of course, Mexico. You remember when he started campaigning, he had slipped up and called Mexican illegals rapists, and it happened. It was, I think it was a little premature. That wasn't his thoughts, but it happened. And so she would say, well, who are you backing up? I said, we're backing up Little Marco. Well, Little Marco disappeared, right? He's gone. And so we still had Lion Ted, as Trump would call him, Ted Cruz. So, and then Ted went down, and my bride called me up, said, don't tell me you're going to support Trump. Yes, we are, because anything was better than Hillary. Anybody. So give me another song. Here we go. So here we are, Latinos for Trump. We were, and Trump started talking to Latinos after he got a little on his feet in his campaign. And he'd always say, Latinos are great hard workers, and they're good Americans. Hard workers, good Americans. And he would say that. He didn't have to spend an hour on it, but he would always remind you, hardworking people, they're going to like me. I like Latinos. I work with a lot of them in my career in construction. And so let's keep moving, Rico. Here's what we're looking at for 2024. So we switched to Trump, and in his 4 years in office, Trump kept his promises to Latinos. Do you remember that no matter where President Trump was, he could be anywhere in the world. He could be in Paris, Korea, Russia. He'd always say this. You remember this. We have more Latinos, blacks, and Asians working more than any time in this country's history. He would say it every time, no matter what the setting was. And you think Latinos weren't listening? Oh, yeah. That's simple. And he would, the Latinos across the country would say, the president's mentioning us. That's simple, folks. Effective. So as we're looking now, let's look at the matchup. We got Sleepy Joe, and he's getting sleepier by the minute. I saw him yesterday in that Juneteenth thing. It was terrible. Blacks are blacks are rethinking this now, because don't forget, when Trump was in office, I met a group of blacks in Milwaukee at a Trump rally, a group of businessmen. He said, hey, this guy's got us working more than any time in history of the black community. Wow. So he was effective. But here's one of the polls, the next one, Rico. Hispanics aren't buying Bidenomics, man. Of course we're not. You know, Latinos are one of the fastest growing business communities in the country, especially the women, the Latinas. One of the fastest growing in the country. You know, when I started my Hispanic marketing conferences back 20 years ago, the buying power for Latinos was $260 billion. Today, $2.4 trillion. $260 billion 20 years ago, $2.4 trillion. It's just like politics. If you're a company and you're in retail and you're not reaching out to Latinos, you're nuts. You're crazy. And you will lose. That's what's happening with our Republican Party. We've got to reach out. Next one, Rico. And here's a business owner right here in Charleston. You know, and I've met business owners all over the country. We want Trump back in. Things were better. You know, in the States. Well, let's talk about Minnesota. If you're a business owner, a Latino business owner, and there are many in this state. Now you're faced with more taxes. You're faced with the stay home, sick leave money. You're faced with the crime that's happening in the Twin Cities. You remember during the riots, man, the Latino companies were wiped out. And we're faced with all that here. So why aren't we voting? Well, if you're running for office, you got to go and talk to these people. You can't just say, well, they're going to vote for us, you know, for sure. No, you got to talk to them. But once we do, like Rico just said, relationships, it pays off. Let's look at the issues for the upcoming election. This is important. What's number one? Inflation. Of course. You know, tortillas used to be cheap, ladies and gentlemen. You know what? They're not cheap anymore. You know, there was a saying in the Latino community that, you know, we can always eat good because, you know, and it's a staple food, tortillas and beans. It's a staple. It's way up there, folks. It's so expensive. Jobs in the economy. Trump had jobs for us. We're struggling with Biden. Health care. We have some of the worst health disparities in the country. Two big disparities stand out in Minnesota. This is for our local candidates and statewide. Two stand out. We have the worst high school outcomes in the country for Latinos. The country. And number two for blacks. Number two. The cities, you know, we got Walnuts over there talking about, what did I say, Walnuts? Yeah. We got Governor Walnuts over there talking about the great education in Minnesota. Well, not for Latinos, not for blacks, not for Asians, but they never mentioned that. Can you imagine the nerve of that man to go and say those things and not be aware, and he is aware of the disparities, and our health disparities are awful, folks. They're awful. And that's where we should be as Republicans. Hey, we want what? School choice. We want school choice. That's our baby. You know, when they say, well, Republicans, they're just talking about, no, we've been talking about school choice forever. That works in our community, school choice. Crime, gun, violence. You know, you open up the paper when you see who's committing the crimes. We know who's committing the crimes in Minnesota, folks. We know. It's not Latinos. Latinos are at work. They're at work, man. They don't have time to go and nickel dime some car. They haven't got time for a joyride. They get in their car when they're going to work and coming home, taking their family somewhere. And then you've got the lack of affordable housing and high rents. Wow, it's murder out there. And then immigration and border. Why isn't it higher? Why? Well, it's high in Texas. Don't forget that's how Trump won in Texas, because he talked about the border. But you know, like me, for instance, my heart. I'm all for being legal, folks. 100%. You got to be. But my heart's still with some of the Latinos. And some of the Mexicans or the various Central America countries, you know, you still have relatives there, folks. It's not, but it is important. It's very important. Next one, Rico. So here's the bottom line. We have an opportunity, and I was just in Houston for a major meeting of conservative Latinos. We have an opportunity to gain one of the highest turnouts for a Republican in years. We're talking probably 50% for Trump. If that happens, we win. Arizona, New Mexico, Wisconsin, Texas, Florida, Michigan, on and on. We win. But here's the next part of our presentation. How are we doing on time, Carol? We okay? Well, we're having fun here. What do we care? We're having fun. Okay? Okay, good. We're on cue. Here's the thing. There's something happening with Latino millennials. CNN Espanol, they're not our friends. CNN Espanol, no, they're all left all the way. They recently had their poll. They got Trump winning. Everybody in the room almost fainted when they showed that poll because they were all liberals in the room. And these young CNN Espanol representatives said, no, we got, and why? It's simply this. Latinos don't like the progressive movement. And here's an example of why Latinos don't like the progressive movement. And I'm going to have Rico come back and talk about the Latinx issue.
The Latinx, my ex, your ex, Latinx. This has been going on for quite a while, as we will see. This is a question. Latino, Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, Latine, which one is it? There is more, but wait, there is more. This is something that everybody is questioning and asking, and a lot of people in politics from both ends of the political spectrum are saying, don't use Latinx, because it's become politically charged. Companies don't want to use Latinx because it's become politically charged, and it's like, we don't want to do politics here, we want to sell candy or shampoo or whatever. So here is one from University of Missouri, very recent. Is it Hispanic, Latinat? Okay, Latinx or Latine. That Latinat, that was popular for about 5 minutes 20 years ago. I used it. It's like, oh, this is pretty cool. It's one way to say Latino. Otherwise, if you write, I'm a writer, and we need to write in a gender inclusive or gender neutral way, Latino/Latina. And so to avoid that, Latinata was pretty nice, but it was a fad, and it went away as quickly as it came. Latinx came, and I did a presentation on Latinx at one of Rick's conferences a few years ago. Even back then, it's like, don't use it, it's politically charged, it's not, a lot of people don't like it, a lot of Latinos don't like it, a lot of Latinas don't like it. Some Latinas would say, we fought so hard to use the name Latina, and now you want to say Latinx? No, Latina is, a Latina power, whatever. So, Latine is the new version, and supposedly it accomplishes the gender inclusiveness of Latinx in a more Spanish, grammatically correct way. Spanish is, like many languages in the world, by the way, they assign gender to almost everything. A refrigerator, the sun, the moon, the car, the chair, the table, a fork, a knife, everything has a gender. He or a she, masculine, feminine. That's why it's so hard to learn French. You have to think of so many things, and Spanish, and all these languages. When I was living in Europe, I was comparing notes on this topic with a fellow from the Netherlands. So in Spanish, the sun is masculine and the moon is feminine. Well, in their language it was the opposite. It was, the sun is feminine and the moon is masculine. That changes the way you think. Anyway, in English, we don't have that situation. So that's why all these academic and other conversations about how do we do that, because if we say Latinos, in Spanish, by the way, on the grammatical rules are very male-oriented. If you have one girl, una niña. You add another girl, dos niñas. Another girl, tres niñas. Another girl, cuatro niñas. A boy comes in, person number 5 is a boy, and then you have cinco niños, because there's one boy. I know, it's not nice. I have 2 daughters. I think, hey, that's chauvinistic. The language is that way. So that is part of the context of all of these things. Look at this. The headlines lately, these are all very recent headlines. Latinx, why do many Hispanics hate the term? There are many reasons why. Latino groups want to do away with Latinx. That is such a huge topic that's been going on for more than a year. Latine is, which is true, this is true, Latine is the new Latinx. How long will it last? Most likely another fad. I don't think it'll stick. We'll see. But when Latinat came, I thought, oh, maybe this will be good. It's a nice solution. As a writer, it's a nice solution. Didn't last. It was a total fad, just like the Latinx, potentially just like Latine. So here we go. Latinat, Latinx, Latine, Latin. Latin is a solution. I'm on the board of a local publishing house, the Afton Press, Historical Press. We have a new book, Latin Art in Minnesota. We talked about, what do we call it? Hispanic art, Latino, Latina, Latinx art. We almost went out with Latinx art. It's like, no, it's a fad. I'm glad because today it's gone and now Latine is in. So Latin art in Minnesota, that's the name of the book. I should have brought a few to sell. So this is it. This is, now we have something for you. Thanks to Latino American Today, by the way, Latino American Today. People ask me, what is your ethnicity? What is your own identity? And, you know, if you say, oh, he's Argentine. Yes, I'm Argentine. He's Latin American. Sure, I'm a Latin American. He's an Argentine American, the hyphen. Sure, I am. But my own identity, I am this, Latino American. That's my identity. This is the country where I spend most of my life, where I know how things work, where I can make a living and live well. And I am American. I'm a Latino American. An American Latino, in my book, will be somebody who was born here. So he will be speaking without an accent in English and was born in the U.S., American Latino. Edward James Olmos is an American Latino. Rico Aguilar will be an American Latino. I don't think that's his identity, but you know, he will qualify in the way I define it. I define myself like this, and that's why I love this. It's a great name for the publication that Rico Aguilar gave to this, Latino American. I'm a Latino American. That's why I like the logo. I put it nice and big on the PowerPoint. And now we're going to watch. Thank you.
Well, that's our program for today, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure being with you. We're going to have the video, of course, but we want to show you the video as we end, because this is a story you're going to see of millions of Latinos who have come to America and have found just what Rico and I have found. This is the American dream, the land of freedom. So let's watch that video.
My name is Daniel Garza, and my American experience started off here. I grew up picking crops with my family. My parents were immigrants from Mexico with nothing but a 4th grade education. We were so poor. My siblings and I would often miss school to work in the fields. Our home was the size of a tool shed. We had no running water, and what we would do is warm buckets of water on the stove so that when my parents returned from work in the fields, they would bathe with small cups. My father never took welfare because he didn't want to depend on anyone or lose his dignity. He is a proud and noble man.
We can make it with just 3 things. It's God, good credit, and freedom, liberty to work. And that's what the United States is.
You know, I didn't know it at the time, but my father began saving money and buying and selling small properties. He bought a motel with the profit he made. My family and I spent long hours fixing up that motel while still working the fields. My father continued to buy and sell property, and one day he and my mother retired with enough money to live comfortably for the rest of their lives.
If I don't come to the United States, I don't think I have the life that we got right now, living so good, you know.
My parents' American dream had become a reality. My family and I have succeeded by following the path to freedom. But that path is on the verge of vanishing. What we're starting to see here in America now is a growth in the size and the scope of government that is now starting to look like the governments that we left behind. I'm just torn apart when I see folks who are caught in this dependency that government offers. And not only that, they've condemned their children to a life of mediocrity and subsistence. That this is not the American dream. This is an American nightmare. The Libre Initiative is reaching the Hispanic community before they are lost forever. We know advancing economic freedom is the best way to improve human well-being, especially those at the bottom. And that's our message to the world. You know, one day I was speaking before a group of 150 evangelical Hispanic ministers in South Texas, and a man stood up. He had tears in his eyes and said, you know, I've never heard these things before. Why has nobody told us? And most Hispanics have never even heard about economic freedom, but they know it. Cuba, Venezuela, Mexico, Hispanics leave countries that have been ruined by tyranny to come to America, the land of the free. They don't just believe in the cause, they've lived it. It is a privilege to live in the United States because this is a nation where you dictate your destiny. No other nation has fulfilled more dreams and more aspirations than this country. And to have been born here, I'm just grateful to God for that.
Well, thank you. Any questions? Any questions out there? Yeah.
Rick, a couple of things. If anybody didn't get the news, Biden was found guilty. I don't know if you heard that.
Oh, my God. Wow.
But one of the things you might want to comment on, Rick, two things, actually. One is when Trump was here for his recent event, they took in almost $1 million. He took, I heard, gas money for his plane coming in, and the rest of it he donated to the state Republican Party, which should pull us out of debt, which has been a lingering problem for the party. The other thing I wanted you to comment on, because of your wife's connection in the diplomatic corps, what is the new president of Mexico? What do you see happening with her administration as it affects relations with the United States?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is, that shows President Trump's love for Minnesota. I'm hoping we're a battleground state. I'm hoping that, I saw the recent poll, KSTP. Looks like we're dead heat. I mean, that's good news. KSTP is no friend of ours. That's a good poll. So maybe there's something there. But to donate that kind of money, get us out of a hole. But I think it was John Nagel or one of our candidates, the gentleman handling the membership here, the seniors. He's right. We've got to come together as a party, folks. I refuse to be a part of any conservative website or any that's arguing. This doing the rhinos and all this stuff. It's nonsense. No, we need to come together, and we need to reach out to our Asian friends, to our Latinos, as we tried to show you today. Number two, I've heard, the stock market almost crashed when the new president of Mexico took over, first woman in history. I talked to my brother-in-laws who are business people. They're socialist communists. That's what they think she is, socialist communist. So my bride now is on her career is almost up in Los Angeles, but she has to be so careful politically what she says. She could end up in Omaha somewhere. So she's on the quiet. And then I'm a Republican. We get along great, but no. So Mexico's had issues, And they're still there, folks. I don't know what's going to dig it out of there, but I do know one thing. Mexico will be better off with having Trump as president. We know that. We know that. It's going to bring law and order to their border, and you believe you me, they've gotten away with a lot. We see what Venezuela is sending over to some gangsters, and that breaks my heart. Being a Latino, I don't want to put on the news and see, that we're committing all these crimes. It's embarrassing, man. It's a heartbreaker. So we don't need that. But again, how about Rico Vallejos in his presentations, folks? Yeah. Yeah, we especially wanted to bring that in. It's been a pleasure. Don, let's not wait another 15 years, man. We'll be back sooner. Oh, I want a question. Oh, I'm sorry.
My name is Lion Dale. You mentioned the Latino, Mexican, whichever your term you want to use, the education scores.
Yeah.
All right. And I watch those things here in Bloomington. All right. How are they ranking and how are they going? And the Asian community, in all the recordings and all the measures, always does very good. Always. I have my opinion on why that is.
Yeah.
And then you see the black community, and then you see the Latino community. All right. The black community is troubled with single-parent families. All right. That's probably the main reason they don't score well. It sounds like you're telling us that the Latino community as a whole are more father, mother, in the home, family-oriented. So if they are scoring below blacks in education, why?
Yeah. Well, let's a couple of things. One, don't forget now, when you talk Asian in Minnesota, you're including Indian, Chinese, Indian Asians. Yeah. Okay, that brings a number of them. No, I think Lor will agree with me that our Hmong students, they're having a lot of issues in education. A lot of issues. So don't forget what those, when you say Asian, Asians have the highest household income over the general market.
The surveys always just say Asian.
Well, yeah, no, I wanted to clarify. Now, but here's the problem with the Latinos. It's a big problem. The parents aren't educated. My mom and dad never knew how to read or write. They can't be like you, so let me do your homework. They're working 2 jobs. They're not home. The kids are coming from an uneducated family, and at school, they're having issues. Generally, they'll come and they'll be behind a couple years. I think there's still the family holding on, but there's always the good side of things. There's schools like Crystal Ray in Minneapolis, where they graduate 100% of the Latinos and 100% of those kids go to college. Our Catholic schools, boom, through the roof. You can't get into a Catholic school, and they're full of Latinos. So for the Latino community, we need that school choice, folks, and we can get it. But we got to win the House, we got to win the Senate, we got to get the governor's office.
Do you think that the Latino population, I guess, have really embraced the American values? Do they consider themselves American or Mexican? Because I spent quite a bit of time the last couple of years out in California. Mm-hmm. And the way I was treated, I go on the bus, the train, wherever. And the way I was treated, I said to my sister, wow, it's like I'm not Mexican. And so that makes you wonder, have they really embraced being American, living here in America, but yet having some of the culture, but being an American?
Yeah, well, there's two Latino communities in Minnesota. There's the assimilated Rick Aguilars. Hundreds and thousands of us were born and raised here, so we're all in for America, and we get the new influx like we are right now of some of the illegal immigrants in here. But I would tell you this. California's a whole different world. But, the schools, the Democrat Party and all their efforts are to say we're anti-American. That's what these Latinos are being fed. We're anti-American. This country doesn't want you to. And that's what they're doing nationwide. That's why you have the kids with Hamas. Our kids, the white kids, they're Hamas now. They're Palestinian. How did that happen? It can happen. It can happen. We're seeing it right in front of our eyes. The general white student, the kid you send to college, Carl, to St. Olaf, they're out there with Hamas headbands on. So that's part of what's happening, I think, in California. And California is it's a state where you've got so it's an influx there. So I still believe that Latinos we love America. That's our values. That's why you see some. Well, yeah, and I've been out to California forever. And I know more about California not than you do because of my wife being in the consulate corps. Yeah, we know all those people, and believe you me, that American dream is alive and well. It really is. But we have instances where you might have some problems. I'm sorry.
Two more questions.
Okay.
We had one here who's had her hand.
Well, I'm sorry.
Cheryl.
Yeah, Cheryl.
One thing, I worked in healthcare, and one of the things that was concerning to us is that a lot of Latinos did not seem to speak English, especially the older parents and things. And I guess I take that as someone who doesn't care about being here and being part of, being an American.
Yeah.
And it costs millions of dollars to interpret for them for every doctor appointment, hospital visit, everything. And I don't know, do they realize that?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a great example. You know that all the Africans, we get Africans now that come to, except for the Somalians, that come to the United States, they're all educated. All of them. Who are we getting here illegally? We're not getting the middle-class Mexican. My wife's family from Mexico City, we're not getting them. They're not coming here. They're not going across the border at night. No, we are getting the uneducated. They would love, my mom and dad would have loved to speak English. But when you come here as a teenager and you didn't go to school in Mexico, look how far behind you got. No, do not take that. Do not take that as an insult. They would love to, and I think for Latino, I think Rico will agree. English is one of the hardest languages to learn. I'm not making excuses, but that's the truth. So that's what's happening in the health area. Yeah.
Can you hear me? It's on? Okay. My grandparents came from Russia and Poland. They didn't speak English. I grew up with grandparents who did not speak English. So I don't know whether or not, or when you have massive immigration, I don't know that you're going to have people that easily learn to speak the language. Let's look at the next generation.
Yeah.
Instead of the generation that just came here.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Final question.
Okay. Thank you for that point. Yeah. I think your mic's barely on there.
No. Mic's not on.
Well, come on up here, Sonia. No, come on up here.
Let's get one.
Come on up here. Yeah, we'll get you up here. The Latina here, folks. Oh, we got one working. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Well, my name is Sonia Gorian. I came to the United States when I was 21. Now I am close to my 80s. And I love this country. This is my country. United States. And I got married, and I have my children, and I told my children, you are not Ecuadorian, you're Americans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that is one step that we have to take
Wonderful.
in our family.
Wonderful. Yeah.
I continue with my heritage in a way of the culture like you were talking about, family, God, country. And I have raised them that way. And I am so glad because right now, they're not Ecuadorians, they're Americans.
Exactly.
And I think that is a step that as the majority we are, they are from the United States born. I think that the people like me, sometimes they feel like they are not accepted. And the problem is because they want to feel that they are Americans also, but they don't know how, you know, because we look different. We have an accent, but the problem is that in the homes we have to teach them that, I believe, like they say, the salad, you know, that we have the United States is the salad. No, but at the same time, the Latin people want to be considered Americans also.
Exactly.
We have to accept them because they have to feel that they are Americans. Exactly. That is what they serve, as you said, in the military.
Wonderful,
and they give
Sonia.
their lives. They give their lives.
That's great, Sonia. Yeah, and you're 100% right. And I'll leave with this because I think we're ready to go, Rico. But I'll leave you with this. You know, the Latino American community here. I will tell you, and I say this with all respect for everyone here. They're our last hope for this country. When you look at all the different groups out there, the Asian, African, well, in 2020, we got 35% of the Latino vote in Minnesota. There was 125,000 votes in 2020 and they voted for Trump. 35%. I think the African American vote was still 5%, 10%. And so in 2022, we went up to 38%. 38%. We're getting there, folks. And that's without us campaigning to them. That's with Rico, who's a libertarian, by the way. Right, Rico? Yeah. But Rico, and that's what our campaigns out there going, come on. That's Rick Aguilar and our radio and our media. So they're all hoping, you know what? You can count on the Latino Americans, folks, being American and loving this country. Count on it. We've got some blips, but count on it. And with that, hey, thanks, Don, Stevie, thank you.
Thank you very much for the great insights into the culture and how we can reach out to Latino Americans. Thank you very much. Closing announcements here. Our next meeting is July 9th. Our featured speaker will be Bill Walsh, who's the Marketing Communications Director, Center of American Experiment. The topic is End of Session Recap. What did the legislature do to us or for us in this last session? We'll also hear from 4 additional endorsed candidates and 1 endorsed Hennepin County Commissioner candidate. We are going to begin recruiting for volunteers to staff the MNGOP booth at the State Fair, so that'll start next month. Repeating some important information, election judges are still needed. If you missed the deadline to register with MNGOP to get on the political party list, don't worry, you can still volunteer to vote. See your local city or county campaign election office at City Hall. County offices. If you are on the state party list, everyone who got on the said they wanted to be on the state party list was accepted by the Secretary of State, so you should be getting first shot at the spots. You do still need to make contact with your city election official, your county election official. Get hired. Those are paid positions. Get the training. Get on the schedule for both the primary and the general election, or for the absentee ballot boards. Summertime is parade and festival time. Every one of our candidates can use volunteers. If you aren't able to donate money, which donating money is always a great choice, but if you're not able to donate money, walk with them in a parade. Volunteer to be their transportation at the end of the parade for them and the people who walk the parade. Bring bottled water and ice for the volunteers who've been out on the parade or fair route with them. All of our candidates need support. You don't have to live in their district in order to contribute to them. You don't have to live in their district to volunteer for them. So find 2 candidates you love and love them back. I love everybody. Thank you, John. Are there any first-time guests or visitors here today who would like to give us their name? Karen, microphone, please. Mike.
Katie Jacobs, there we go. Third time's a charm. I'm running for 39B, Columbia Heights, New Brighton, St. Anthony. I am a mother and grandmother of 3 and a great-grandmother of 1. She's precious. Two grandsons who served in the Navy, one of them making a career of it. I am running against Sandra Feist, who is an immigration attorney. I'm going to stop right there.
Thank you, KT, and we'll hear more from KT later in the year. I think we've got her scheduled for August to make a 3-minute speech. Are there other people who are here as first-time visitors or guests? Someone up here? And someone here.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Lonnquist. I'm from Mendota Heights, and I visited the senior Republican booth at the convention and thought I would stop by. I also ran in the special election last year in Mendota Heights.
Thank you, Cynthia. Welcome. Someone up here is a first-time visitor? Did you want to say your name and where you're from? No. Come on. 30 seconds.
My name is Tom Boats, and I'm from Delano, Minnesota.
Thank you, Tom. And did we have another one back here? Okay. Any more? Raise your hand if I want. Okay. We got one here.
I'm Wayne Gorian. My wife Sonia from Ecuador. We got married in Los Angeles. 3 days later, moved here. She was here 6 months before she met somebody who spoke Spanish.
Oh.
And she came here to go to UCLA.
Thank you very much. Remember to tell a friend or a neighbor, as John Butz so eloquently said, it takes all of us to bring in our friends and neighbors. We have additional brochures and business cards on the back table. Pick one up, pick 3 up, pass them around in your neighborhood and in your church, in your civic organizations. More information about today's announcements is up here. I've been asked to make an announcement on behalf of Bob McGinnis. The celebration of life for Barb McGinnis will be at the Fort Snelling Chapel, July 12th at noon. So I'll have that printed up here as well. Are there people with brief 30-second announcements? I think we had like 5 different people. Tom Spitznagel back there, let's start with you and then work our way forward. Campaign contribution refund program, the PCR program, donations to Republican seniors are not eligible, but donations to Minnesota candidates are, or to the party, or to your Senate district. $75 an individual, $150 a couple, and that is what we stuff the receipts for once you've made your donations to MNGOP. The individual candidates and the Senate districts do their own mailings associated with those. All right, next here.
Most of you
from Bloomington have probably signed the ranked choice voting petition to get it on the November 5th ballot. If you haven't, there's a clipboard here. There's a clipboard at the back table. Bloomington residents, please sign it so we can get it on the ballot. Thanks.
Thank you. Who else needed to make an announcement? Quick announcement here.
Yeah, I have some literature here on the people who unfortunately volunteered for the armed forces that defend our America. You know, in our days they came and got us, you know, but these guys volunteered, and of course they ended up in Leavenworth. I have a friend now whose cousin is a 13-year Marine Raider, and he's going over to Iraq, and of course he has two things that could happen. He could get killed or over there, or our government could mess him up and put him in Leavenworth too. Thank you.
All right. Another quick 30-second announcement, 15-second announcement?
Yes, I'm Margaret Flower. I'm part of the Metro Republican Women, another affiliate. And I did want to talk about, on Thursday, August 1st, Jason Lewis will be here. He's going to be speaking at Mendakota Country Club at 5 o'clock. And so most of us probably remember Jason. It should be a fun evening. His talk will be on 2024, the stakes. So Jason will be here at Mendakota on Thursday, August 1st. So there will be some more information. I do have some slips here which are save the date, and we don't have quite all the information finalized, but it will be online, and we hope everybody can make it. It is co-sponsored by the Metro Republican Women and the Minnesota Elephant Club. So hope you can put it on your calendar. Thank you
for that August 1st date with Metro Republican Women.
1 week from today is an American Majority event in Shakopee on early voting. So anyone that's interested in that, I think you could pick up some information. If you want more detail on exactly when that is and where, I'm at the back AMAC table back here. I'd be happy to share that with you.
Excellent. All right. Dale? Okay, good man.
My name is Lyondale Johnson. I am running for House District 51B, that's Bloomington, Penn to the east, from 494 down to the Minnesota River. My whole standing is that I'm going to stand for the policies and programs that support the majority of Minnesotans. And my campaign, your vote, our voice, because a lot of people don't think they got a voice. And so we work together. I'll be out back there. I don't have my literature made yet because I made the decision the day before filing ended last Tuesday. I still have stuff I got to get into the state of Minnesota, but I'll appreciate any of your help. And that money, yeah, that's how this all goes. And the $75 that you can get back from the political campaign refund from the state of Minnesota, if you gave my campaign $75, I will make good use of it, and you'll get your money back. Here's my question. What did you invest in my program? Nothing. If you get $75 back that you gave to me, you don't have any skin in the game. So I'm asking people to double that. And make it at least $100, but $150 would be great. Now you've given me $75 of your money. Now you've shown me that you're in. And candidates all need to raise from 30 people, minimum $50 each, in order to qualify for money from the state in the fall. All right, this is for state candidates. So I need that. I need your help, and that's my skill. I'll be back there.
Thank you, Dale. And we will have Dale speak again later in the year. And one final announcement.
We were out door knocking last Sunday, and we realized that a lot of people don't even know about the August primary. And we have endorsed candidates from the Republican Party that they have never even heard of. So right now we need people out door knocking to get our endorsed candidates elected. I mean, right now I think Royce has about 11 Republicans running against him for the primary, and I'm from CD2, and Taylor has Joe Tarib, or whatever his name is, running. And all these guys, those Joe Fraser and Joe Tarib signed pledges that they would honor the endorsement, and they didn't. So we need to get people out door knocking. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Wrapping it up today. Again, our next meeting is July 9th. We've got a door prize drawing. If you have a red ticket, I guess all of us do, ending at 2956, I have a door prize for you. Come on up. Okay? And first time in a decade. Woohoo! Ending in 2980. All right. Okay. We'll see you next month. Thank you very much.
Hello, you ready to be taken down? Do you have a favorite superhero? Yep, he's the best. Nuh-uh, my superhero is the best. What can your superhero do? My superhero isn't afraid of anything. Oh, yeah? Well, my superhero helps people whenever they need it. He even helps cats. Help! My cat is stuck in the tree! Superhero is stronger than a million gajillion warriors. Even when bad guys come to ruin the day, nothing is impossible for my superhero to defeat. My favorite superhero wants to teach me to be a superhero just like him.
You are an expert in God's law. What does God say? Love God with all of your heart and your neighbor as yourself. You're right. Do that and you'll have eternal life.
Unlike some superheroes, mine knows where his powers come from. Hey, Dad! My favorite superhero isn't Superman or Batman or Wolverine or Iron Man. My favorite superhero is better than all of those combined. My favorite superhero is my dad. Mine too.
Heads up! Who's ready for a water balloon fight?
Somebody help!
Republican Seniors of Minnesota. For more information, please visit republicanseniorsmn.com. While visiting our website, you can click on the video tab to watch videos of past meetings. Also, look for other tabs that bring you to our live player and other special video programs. Or on YouTube, search for Republican Seniors of Minnesota.